All right, welcome to this Premium Explainer. Today, we're rolling up our sleeves and laying the absolute groundwork for building and maturing a modern, intelligence-driven security operations center. Now, if you're a SOC analyst, an engineer, an incident responder, or even a security leader who's actively trying to build a world-class cyber defense capability, well, you're in exactly the right place. This masterclass is entirely grounded in authoritative, battle-tested research straight from Mitre.
So let's kick things off by just acknowledging the harsh, completely asymmetric reality of cyber warfare. If you roll the clock back a few decades, defending a network basically meant protecting a hard outer perimeter, right? It was like a castle with a moat. But today, that perimeter has completely dissolved. With this explosive rise of mobile devices, cloud computing, and remote work, organizations are really struggling to defend this massive, sprawling infrastructure against highly sophisticated, advanced, persistent threats. It's a tough spot to be in because, as defenders, we have to be right 100% of the time across a constantly expanding attack surface, whereas the adversary, they literally only have to get it right once. To navigate this incredible challenge, we're turning to the definitive guide from Mitre, authored by leading cybersecurity experts Catherine Kerneler, Ingrid Parker, and Carson Zimmerman. The 11 strategies of a world-class cybersecurity operations center serves as our ultimate playbook for cyber defense. And look, this isn't just academic theory. It's a highly practical framework built on decades of actual frontline experience. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll briefly cover the cyber defense challenge, the evolution of the SOC, what exactly defines one, the mechanics of defense, and we'll wrap up with the modern operating model. This sets the stage before we start implementing any specific defensive strategies. Starting with Section 1, the Cyber Defense Challenge, and this crucial shift from simple monitoring to intelligence-driven defense. You see, our entire industry has undergone a massive paradigm shift. We've completely moved away from an era of mostly on-premises networks and rigid firewalls, and we've been thrust into this chaotic new reality of decentralized cloud services, remote endpoints everywhere, and frankly, the absolute necessity for rapid automation. And these aren't just industry buzzwords we're throwing around. These are explosive structural shifts. The rise of advanced persistent threats completely forced defenders to change their mindset. The massive pivot to remote work in the cloud meant that traditional network intrusion detection systems really had to start sharing the spotlight with endpoint detection and response, or EDR. Plus, SOCs quickly realized they couldn't just sit back and wait for alerts to happen. They had to tightly integrate cyber threat intelligence and proactively hunt for threats, all while relying heavily on SOAR platforms to just automate away all that underlying noise. These specific shifts essentially demanded a completely modern architecture for cyber defense. Moving to Section 2, the evolution of the SOC, and understanding what a world-class SOC actually is. It is incredibly common for organizations to blur the lines between their different technical departments. So by clearly contrasting the SOC with the Network Operations Center, IT Ops, and Compliance, we establish exactly what a SOC is not. Listen, the SOC is not a help desk. It's not there to fix a broken printer, and it's not there to make sure regulatory checklists are ticked off. The SOC is an intelligence fusion center. Its sole focus is detecting, analyzing, and responding to cyber intrusions. If you burden your SOC with basic IT provisioning, I guarantee you will miss the adversary quietly exfiltrating your critical data. Now, the holy trinity of any successful SOC always relies on 3 core pillars. Think about it. You can go out and buy the most expensive, flashy, blinking boxes on the market, but without highly skilled people to actually interpret that data and rigorous, repeatable processes to guide their actions, that technology is basically useless. The secret to effective security operations is keeping people, process, and technology in perfect, harmonious balance so you can detect and respond to the adversary as rapidly as possible. Let's jump into Section 3, what defines a SOC? Here, we'll cover the foundational mechanics and the vital terminology of defense. The very first concept we need to nail down is ground truth. In a perfect world, a security alert would pop up and tell you exactly what happened, who did it, and what data they stole. But in the real world, telemetry is messy. It's incomplete, and sometimes it's even deliberately altered by a clever attacker. So analysts have to constantly hunt for the ground truth, the absolute, unfiltered reality of what is actually occurring on the network, to ensure they're basing their defensive actions on facts rather than dangerous assumptions. Okay, let's dive into a really critical distinction: events versus alerts. An event is simply something that happened. A user logged in, a file was downloaded, maybe a firewall blocked a connection. A modern enterprise generates millions, sometimes billions of these raw, mostly benign events every single day. An alert, on the other hand, is when a detection engine looks at an event and says, hey, wait a minute,
This matches a known bad behavior. Somebody needs to look at this right now. Our analysts have to expertly sift through that massive ocean of events to find the actionable alerts that actually matter. Now, when an alert is investigated and confirmed to actually be malicious, it gets escalated to an incident. An incident goes way beyond a mere flag in your system. It's a confirmed breach or a severe policy violation, and that requires immediate, coordinated defensive action to contain the damage and completely eradicate the adversary from your environment. Which leads us to Section 4, the mechanics of defense, moving from initial detection to decisive action. The Mitre authors make a fantastic point here. A SOC operates a lot like a medical system in a community. The structured workflow acts exactly like medical triage in a hospital ER. When multiple alerts come flooding in, an analyst has to quickly triage them, instantly prioritizing the critical, life-threatening network threats over minor, everyday anomalies. Once a severe threat is identified, they dive into deep investigation to map out the full scope of the attack. And finally, they execute a coordinated response to stop the bleeding and cure the network. Let's look at Section 5, the modern operating model. This is the engine powering intelligence-driven defense. A modern SOC is utterly blind without data. Today, we have to ingest telemetry from literally everywhere. We need EDR, monitoring the exact behaviors of laptops and servers. We need network metadata, tracking exactly where our traffic is flowing. We need logs from our sprawling cloud infrastructure like AWS and Azure. And increasingly, we absolutely must monitor operational technology, those embedded systems that control physical things like power grids and manufacturing floors. The whole goal here is to shine a light on everything and eliminate any dark corners where an adversary might try to hide. And when you visualize how all this comes together, you see observable behaviors like your network traffic and log data combining with cyber threat intelligence and your baseline knowledge of what normal, good activity looks like. All of this feeds right into a detection engine. Those policies filter out the noise, and ultimately they output either stored data for future trending or critical, highly actionable alerts displayed right there on the analyst's screen. It's a continuous, tunable funnel. So the real crucial takeaway here is that raw indicators of compromise, things like a malicious IP address or a malware hash, they honestly mean very little on their own. They tell you what happened and where. But cyber threat intelligence, that provides the vital context. It tells you who is attacking you and why. By understanding the adversary's broader motivations and tactics, the SOC can actually anticipate their next move, officially shifting our defense from reactive to beautifully proactive. But obviously, to have the time to do that proactive hunting, we need help. Enter SOAR platforms. By deploying security orchestration, automation, and response, we're letting technology handle the repetitive, machine-speed tasks. Look, if an alert can be resolved by checking a known bad IP against a database and automatically blocking it at the firewall, a human shouldn't be doing it. Automation saves our analysts from severe alert fatigue, freeing up their massive intellectual capital to focus on advanced, human-driven threat hunting. So before we can begin implementing any of the advanced strategies covered later in this material, you've got to master these fundamental rules of engagement. The perimeter is gone. Your SOC must be a highly specialized, intelligence-driven unit balancing people, process, and technology. And honestly, if you aren't leveraging automation and threat intelligence today, you are simply bringing a knife to a gunfight. But listen, none of this technical mastery matters one bit if you lack business context. As MITRE explicitly states, the SOC must serve as a mission enabler. You simply cannot effectively defend an environment if you don't deeply understand the specific business mission of your constituency and the real people who rely on that network every single day. And that seamlessly transitions us into the very first of the 11 strategies, the absolute necessity of knowing your assets, your digital terrain, and your organization's core mission. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If a sophisticated adversary breached your network right now, today, would you actually know what your most critical data is and exactly where it lives? Your honest answer to that question dictates your organization's true state of readiness. We are going to tackle exactly how to find those answers in the next explainer. Thanks for joining me, and stay secure.